Welcome to this new lesson. In this new lesson, we will create our first Node.js application. We will install the OpenAI library or SDK, and we will use the key that we have created in order to create and configure the OpenAI object. So first, let me go to this folder. I have created this folder. Here I will create the folder that will include our application. So I will call it OpenAI underscore API. So this is where our Node application will go. I will enter inside that. I will open it in a terminal, CMD. So in this terminal, as you can see, I will create npm application. So I will do npm init. That should create the Node.js application for me. So I will go with default here, default here, default here. Here I will call it app.js. So this will be the entry point for my web application or web server. I will go with defaults. And that's it. I confirm these information, and now the Node app the Node.js has been created for me. Now I will write code that will open Visual Studio Code for me. Here is Visual Studio Code for me. I only for now just having the package JSON. Now let's go to the OpenAI website. In the OpenAI website, I'll go to platform.openai.com. If you go to documentation, if you go to libraries, you will see that we have multiple libraries. This is the Node.js library that we will use. So what we will need to do first is to create this npm, then we will be doing this code. So let me first get this npm installed to install OpenAI. I'll go back to the Visual Studio Code. I'll come here and do a new terminal. And here I will launch this to install OpenAI. Okay, so that installed OpenAI. Now I know that I will shortly use environment variables. So I will install the related package, which is npm install dotenv, because we will set our API key as an environment variable. So we need this package to read that environment variable. So I will start this as well. Okay, now I will create some files that we will be using. Let me first create a config folder. Config folder. Inside the config folder, I will create a file. I will call it OpenAI config.js. Here I will put the initial OpenAI configuration. I'll also create another couple of files that we use. So the first one, it will be app.js. This will be the entry point for the Express server that we will create later. And I'll create another file that we will be using for testing. I will call it playground.js. Okay, so these are the files created. Just to test my Node.js configuration, I will go to playground.js. I will do console log. I will write, for example, hello OpenAI. OpenAI API. I'll save now. To launch it, I will come here. I will put Node, then playground.js. Yes, and we here get hello OpenAI correctly. Okay, now let's go and define our environment variable that will contain the OpenAI API key. So again, I will create a new file here. Its name must be .env. This file is where we will put our OpenAI key as an environment variable. You can see I called it OpenAI underscore key. So this file is now in my environment variables and can be accessed directly using the process object. Now, if you look at the website, you see here is the initialization. This is almost what we will do now. Of course, here we create the configuration object and we initialize the OpenAI API with that configuration object. So this is the part that we will do now in this class. Okay, so first we will start by importing the configuration object and the OpenAI module from the OpenAI library. Then we will import and initialize the environment variable. So we do that by requiring the .environment and launching the config method. Okay, then we will create the configuration object. This is the configuration object. I have just created it with an empty JavaScript object. Okay, then we pass the first information, which is the organization information. So this is how we pass the configuration organization as a key value pair. Of course, this configuration, if we go back to account, if we come here and come to manage account, here is the organization ID that we are using. Then we need to pass the API key. So we can read the API key by going process.env.openai key. Whatever is in this .env file, which we created here on the root, it has this API key. So whatever in this file, you can access it by process.env, and you pass the key, which is this key, in order to get the API key. So by this, we completed the configuration object for OpenAI. Now we will initialize the OpenAI object. As you can see here, I have the OpenAI object. I passed to it the configuration, which contains the organization and the API key. And now the OpenAI object is ready. We can just start calling APIs within the OpenAI API module in order to communicate with the models, sending them requests and receiving responses from them. Okay, so the only remaining part now is that we need to export this OpenAI, because this file will be included in all our files that need to access OpenAI. So wherever we need to access OpenAI, we will include this file. That's all for this lesson.